Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. The very first word of Sikhism's central scriptural book, Guru Granth Sahib, begins with the word Ek, Onkar, which means that there is only one, omnipresent, omnipotent, and omniscient presence. This is the essence of the embodied messages which implore the human being to come to this realization. The following verse is from page 1349 by Kabir. First, God created the light. Then by his creative power, he made all mortal beings. From the one light, the entire universe welled up. So who is good and who is bad? O people, O siblings of destiny, do not wander, deluded by doubt. The creation is in the Creator, and the Creator is in the creation, totally pervading and permeating all places. The clay is the same, but the fashioner has fashioned it in various ways. There is nothing wrong with the pot of clay. There is nothing wrong with the potter. The one true Lord abides in all. By his making, everything is made. Whoever realizes this divine command knows the one Lord. He alone is said to be the Lord's servant. The Lord is omnipresent, but unseen. Says Kabir, the Guru has blessed me with this sweet understanding. My anxiety and fear have been taken away. I see the immaculate Lord pervading everywhere. It is our responsibility to learn to tackle fear with as much love and compassion, to learn to react with understanding and forgiveness, and recognize the oneness that connects us all. If we imagine that we are free of all labels, all separation, all judgments about this world and the life inhabiting it, we can then perhaps begin to understand oneness. Oneness, to me, is then the ability to experience unity with everyone and everything around us. Oneness is seeing beyond division. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
So hi, my name is Omar Daibat. I'm the Muslim faith volunteer at the McGill Office of Religious and Spiritual Life, and it's a great pleasure to be here in this experience of healing, in this moment of reflection and healing and coming together and prayer. I'm also an active member of the Sanad Collective in Eastern Canada. We're a Muslim community organization led by Sheikh Hamdi bin Isa. And more than just a community organization, we're really a kind of spiritual movement from the Sufi tradition. And the reflection that I would like to share today is on an article written by Sheikh Hamdi bin Isa and his wife, Ansa Shahnaz, a few years ago, which I think, given the context that we're living in today, the context of struggles with social justice and of course the Black Lives Matter movement, and highlighting all the injustices that are around us today, I think that this article is actually a very fitting reflection and in some ways counterintuitive, but an important spiritual message that I believe is a message that cuts across traditions and is at the core of any sound spiritual tradition as well. So I'm sure that many others would be able to relate to it. The name of the article is No Peace, No Justice. So as we know, the common slogan when we consider the struggle for social justice is no justice, no peace. Now, this is an inversion of that principle with the suggestion or the idea that without the cultivation of inner peace, we cannot truly cultivate a lasting call for justice. Without the cultivation of inner peace at the level of the individual, we cannot cultivate a true and lasting sense of justice. Not to say that, of course, the struggle for social justice isn't important, but it's merely a question of our priorities and principles. And so, as the article says, the cultivation of justice, in order to cultivate true justice, in order to have a call for true justice, we need to cultivate basically four essential principles. And these are namely the cultivation of compassion and empathy before the cultivation of anger, cultivation of love for God's sake before the cultivation of aversion for God's sake, the cultivation of permeability to beauty and goodness, and those who uphold the like, before the cultivation of impermeability towards wrongdoing and injustice, and the cultivation of loyalty to what is pleasing to God before the cultivation of that which is displeasing to him. And these four qualities, in turn, give rise to four beneficial qualities. And these are the qualities of forgiveness for the one who wrongs you, the quality of generosity and a giving attitude to the one who denies you, the quality of continuously reaching out and connecting to those who wish to seek to disconnect from you, and the quality of moral integrity and magnanimity towards those who mistreat you. And of course, the article goes on to describe the opposite four qualities, which I will not get into here. But based on this essential teaching, this prophetic teaching, it's the idea that in order for us to establish true and lasting justice, we need to first establish a vertical alliance, a vertical and spiritual alliance with God and with the people of God who seek to spread justice and peace on earth. And in so doing, by cultivating that, we begin to have a sense of serenity. And from that place of serenity and that place of spiritual empowerment, we are truly able to go out into the world and work in the field of justice. And so with that, I would like to read this translation of a prayer in the Quran, which is the opening prayer called the opening, which is a prayer ultimately of spiritual empowerment, of seeking that vertical alliance before we go out into the world to seek that horizontal alliance. Because as we know, to spread peace and justice on earth, we need to have both elements. In our tradition, and I'm sure in other traditions as well, you have the vertical alliance, which is the vertical alliance with God, and then the horizontal alliance, which is the alliance of calling others to good, of building community and of building strong relationships in the path of justice. And so this prayer, which in many ways is the most comprehensive prayer, I find is a very fitting one for our context today, and then a beautiful reflection. And it's in many ways a translation that is also that brings to mind everything that should come to mind when we read the surah of the Fatiha in the Quran. So I begin with the prayer. I bring myself to the door of God. In the name of God, closer to me than all my relatives, creator of relationships, and the one who nurtures them best. My devotion and my praises flow to God, the guide and nourisher of the soul and conscience of every being, the one Lord, dearer to me than myself, the one to whom I belong, the source of my life and the origin of my identity, the ground of my being. I sing the name of my Lord, King of my heart, owner of my soul, judge of my intentions, the truth of my interactions and the sincerity of my engagement with him. My Lord and nourisher of my soul, here I am in your court, honored by this private audience with you. I stand before your majesty. I beseech you on my behalf and on behalf of all creation, echoing the eternal voice of all conscious beings, those who came before me, those who are living with me, and those who will come after me, I say, our journeying is to you, and in you we find our strength, assistance, and support. You light the way, and you give the will. You are the end, and you are the means. Guide us on your straight path. Lead us in your good way, the way of eternal bliss, walked by your beloved ones, those who awaken to become witnesses to your abundant grace, who appreciate and fully experience your blessings. I seek refuge in your eternal grace and everlasting light, my Lord and teacher of my soul, from being of those who are blind to your beauty and goodness and who stay deaf to your call of love, those who consume, dishonor, devalue, or take your gifts for granted. I seek refuge in your eternal grace and everlasting light, my Lord and teacher of my soul, from being of those whose resistance has made them experience divine gifts as deprivation, for whom blessings become barriers and opportunities for guidance and closeness to you become the very cause of their severance. I knock at your door, my Lord. I am at your threshold. Do not let me turn away. May this door never become an obstacle. Open my being to you and open the way for me. Amen. And as a final reflection on this prayer, essentially the call here is to recognize that the only true source of peace and serenity for us as individuals and for humanity is through that vertical alliance with our Creator. Because as much as we would like to live in a utopia where justice for all exists for everyone, the injustice will always remain, which is the case of humanity. Injustices will always remain. And so by calling upon that vertical alliance, we are able to cultivate that sense of inner peace, irrespective of our given context. And from that place, we are able to act with integrity and true spiritual empowerment in the world.
I'm Rabbi Ellen Greenspan. I'm the rabbi educator at Temple Emmanuel Beth Shalom, which is in Westmount. And I'm happy to be offering a few readings. I'm not even going to call them prayers. They're not like officially from Jewish tradition, but at Temple, since we've been under quarantine, we've been offering by email a series of inspirations to our congregants. And I recorded these three readings for one of our daily inspirations following the death of George Floyd, the strangling of George Floyd, and all the protests that ensued. So these are sort of reflecting on our need for pursuing racial justice and for seeking the end of injustice in our world. So the first poem is a poem written by a Jewish poet. His name is all modern. I mean, he's current. He writes today. He published it on May 29th on his blog. He has a blog that's called To Bend Light. His name is Alden Solovey. And he wrote this psalm of protest in memory of George Floyd. He writes, "This is a prayer against brutality, abuse of power, and racism." He is quick to say, "I'm not anti-police and have written several prayers for police and first responders, but be clear. No one should die in police custody, and systemic racism must end, period." And he, on his website, he provides a link to all the Psalms that he's written. I will just read this one. It is called Strangled by Police, Psalm of Protest, number 17. A psalm of protest in memory of George Floyd, sung at the gates of justice, where Black men are strangled in the streets, when power is abused and jails overflow, when the voiceless are forgotten and minorities misused. Open, you gate, open to the cries of those murdered, jailed, or harassed for being Black, for being a person of color, for being homeless, indigent, destitute, or unwanted, the detained, the hounded, the pursued, and the persecuted, those who are killed while being restrained. Open, you gates. Let righteousness flow forth as living waters, and truth flow forth as healing balm, to still the hand of violence and hatred, to cure the heart of bigotry and racism, to herald fairness and equality, and bring justice to this land. The second piece that I will read is also a sort of a psalm of protest. It was written by a woman, a Jewish woman of color, actually. And she wrote this initially for an Instagram feed. She is on Instagram. Her name is April Baskin, but her Instagram feed is @JoyousJustice. But she originally wrote this for an Instagram feed that is called @ModernRitual. It's a really cool Jewish Instagram feed. They do really creative things. Anyway, this is called a protest prayer. Beloved siblings striving for justice, Shema, listen closely at all times. My prayer for you is that you remember protest is a sacred act, just as the mourner's Kaddish helps souls ascend to God. May our cries soothe those whose lives were prematurely extinguished and rattle the bones and stones of leaders and institutions, leaving no question about the fact that things are never going back, only forward. For more of us are clear that we have nothing to lose but our chains. We affirm we are a multiracial people, and we will stand strong, humble and proud as we follow and work in partnership with Black leaders, taking steady strides in the direction of collective liberation. And finally, I'll share a poem that this is the only one that's published in a book, actually. It's published in the prayer book of the Reconstructionist movement, and it's a poem by Judy Chicago. It's also available on the internet. And then all that has divided us will merge, and then compassion will be wedded to power, And then softness will come to a world that is harsh and unkind. And then both men and women will be gentle. And then both women and men will be strong. And then no person will be subject to another's will. And then all will be rich and free and varied. And then the greed of some will give way to the needs of many. And then all will share equally in the earth's abundance. And then all will care for the sick and the weak and the old. And then all will nourish the young. And then all will cherish life's creatures. And then all will live in harmony with each other and the earth. And then everywhere will be called Eden once again.
Hello to everyone. My name is Adriana Cabrera Cleves, and I serve as director of the Interreligious Affairs Bureau of the Baha'i Faith here in Montreal. I also serve as the Baha'i Faith volunteer at the McGill Office of Religious and Spiritual Life. Today, I have specially prepared short texts from the Baha'i writings related to justice and unity in diversity. To help us reflect on the subject of oneness of humanity and racial unity, I would also like to share extracts from a message of the Baha'i community of the United States on curing conditions and the path towards racial justice. Before sharing the hidden word written by Baha'u'llah, who is the founder of the Baha'i Faith, which I have chosen for today, I would like to say a couple of prayers to prepare us for what we will share. O divine providence, this assemblage is composed of thy friends who are attracted to thy beauty and are set ablaze by the fire of thy love. Turn these souls into heavenly angels. Resuscitate them through the breath of thy Holy Spirit. Grant them eloquent tongues and resolute hearts. Bestow upon them heavenly power and merciful susceptibilities. Cause them to become the promulgators of the oneness of mankind and the cause of love unconquered in the world of humanity, so that the perilous darkness of ignorant prejudice may vanish through the light of the Sun of Truth. This dreary world may become illumined. This material realm may absorb the rays of the world of spirit. These different colors may merge into one color, and the melody of praise may rise to the kingdom of thy sanctity. Verily, thou art the omnipotent and the almighty. O thou compassionate Lord, thou who art generous and able, we are servants of the unsheltered beneath thy providence. Cast that glance of favor upon us. Give light to our eyes, hearing to our ears, and understanding and love to our hearts. Render our souls joyous and happy through the glad tidings. O Lord, point out to us the pathway of thy kingdom, and resuscitate all of us through the breath of the Holy Spirit. Bestow upon us life everlasting, and confer upon us never-ending honor. Unify mankind and illumine the world of humanity. May we all follow thy pathway, long for thy good pleasure, and seek the mysteries of thy kingdom. O God, unite us and connect our hearts with thy indissoluble bond. Verily, thou art the giver, thou art the kind, and thou art the Almighty. Hidden word number 2. O Son of Spirit, the best beloved of all things in my sight is justice. Turn not away therefrom, if thou desirest me, and neglect it not, that I may confide in thee. By its aid thou shalt see with thine own eyes, and not through the eyes of others, and shalt know of thine own knowledge, and not through the knowledge of thy neighbor. Ponder this in thy heart, how it behoveth thee to be. Verily, justice is my gift to thee, and the sign of my loving kindness. said it then before thine eyes. This is from Abdul Baha in the book The Promulgation of Universal Peace. Baha'u'llah said that the various races of humankind lend a composite harmony and beauty of color to the whole. Let all associate, therefore, in this great human garden, even as flowers grow and blend together side by side, without discord or disagreement between them. I will now read the message of the National Spiritual Assembly of the Baha'is of the United States on current conditions and the path towards racial justice. I'm sharing this message here not only because of the events taking place in the United States, but because many of these thoughts apply to the entire world, not only to the American society, and will contribute and help us with our own reflection. The Baha'is of the United States join our fellow citizens in heartfelt grief at the deaths of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and so many others whose lives were suddenly taken by appalling acts of violence. These heartbreaking violations against fellow human beings, due only to the color of their skin, have deepened the dismay caused by a pandemic whose consequences to the health and livelihoods of people of color have been disproportionately severe. This has come to pass against a backdrop of long-standing racial injustice in virtually every aspect of American life. It is clear that racial prejudice is the most vital and challenging issue we face as a country. Yet amidst these tragedies, there are also signs of hope. Countless citizens have a reason to proclaim the truth that we are one nation and to demand specific actions to address the pervasive inequities that for too long have shaped our society. We have remembered who we aspire to be as a people and are determined to make a change for the better. This moment beckons us to a renewed commitment to realize the ideal of e pluribus unum, out of many one, the very ideal upon which America was founded. To create a just society begins with recognition of the fundamental truth that humanity is one. But it is not enough simply to believe this in our hearts. It creates the moral imperative to act and to view all aspects of our personal, social, and institutional lives through the lens of justice. It implies a reordering of our society more profound than anything we have yet achieved, and it requires the participation of Americans of every race and background, for it is only through such inclusive participation that new moral and social directions can emerge. Whatever immediate results might come from the current demonstrations, the elimination of racism will require a sustained and concerted effort. It is one thing to protest against particular forms of injustice. It is a far more profound challenge to create a new framework for justice. Our efforts can only succeed when we learn to build relationships with each other based on sincere friendship, regard, and trust, which in turn become pillars for the activities of our institutions and communities. It is essential for us to join hands in a process of learning how to create models of what we want to see in every dimension of American life, as we learn to apply the principle of oneness through practical engagement and experience. To this end, we offer the following thoughts. An essential element of the process will be honest and truthful discourse about current conditions and their causes, and understanding in particular the deeply entrenched notions of anti-Blackness that pervade our society. We must build the capacity to truly hear and acknowledge the voices of those who have directly suffered from the effects of racism. This capacity should manifest itself in our schools, the media, and other civic arenas, as well as in our work and personal relations. This should not end with words, but lead to meaningful, constructive action. There are already significant efforts underway to learn how to create models of unity in neighborhoods and communities throughout the nation. Baha'is have been persistently engaged in such efforts for many years. The aim is not unity in sameness. It is unity in diversity. It is the recognition that everyone in this land has a part to play in contributing to the betterment of society. and that true prosperity, material and spiritual, will be available to us all to the degree that we live up to this standard. We should earnestly discover what is being done, what truly helps to make a difference, and why. We should share this knowledge throughout the country as a means of inspiring and assisting the work of others. If we do this, we could soon find ourselves in the midst of a mass transition toward racial justice. Religion, an enduring source of insight concerning human purpose and action, has a key role to play in this process. All faith communities recognize that we are essentially spiritual beings. All proclaim some version of the golden rule, to love others as we do ourselves. Take, for example, the following passage from the Baha'i scriptures, in which God addresses humankind. Know ye not why we created you, all from the same dust, that no one should exalt himself over the other. Ponder at all times in your hearts how ye were created. Since we have created you all from one same substance, it is incumbent on you to be even as one soul, to walk with the same feet, eat with the same mouth, and dwell in the same land, that from your inmost being, by your deeds and actions, the signs of oneness and the essence of detachment may be made manifest. To understand and firmly believe that we are all children of God provides us with access to vast spiritual resources, motivating us to see beyond ourselves and to work steadily and sacrificially in the face of all obstacles. It helps to ensure that the process is consistent with the goal to create communities characterized by justice. It gives us the faith, strength, and creativity to transform our own hearts, as we also work for the transformation of society. We believe that the tribulations now encompassing much of the world are the symptoms of humanity's failure to understand and embrace our essential oneness. The interrelated threats of climate change, gender discrimination, extreme wealth and poverty, unfair distribution of resources, and the like all stem from this deficiency and can never be resolved if we do not awaken to our dependence upon each other. The world has contracted to a neighborhood, and it is important to appreciate that what we do in America impacts not only our own country, but the entire planet. We should also never forget that the richness of our diversity and our founding ideals of liberty and justice attract the eyes of the world to us. They will be influenced by what we achieve or fail to achieve in this regard. It is not an exaggeration to say that the cause of world peace is linked to our success in resolving the issue of racial injustice. The oneness of humanity is the foundation of our future. Its realization is the inevitable next stage in our life on this planet. We will replace a world society based upon competition and conflict and driven by rampant materialism with one founded upon our higher potential for collaboration and reciprocity. This achievement will mark the universal coming of age of the human race. How soon we achieve this and how easily will depend upon the commitment we demonstrate to this cardinal principle. We have come to a moment of great public awareness and rejection of injustice. Let us not lose this opportunity. We will commit to the process of forming a more perfect union. Will we be guided by the better angels of our nature to choose the course of wisdom, of courage, and of unity? Will we choose to truly become that city upon a hill to serve as inspiration to all humanity? Let us then join hands with each other in commitment to the path of justice. Together, we can surely achieve this. Baha'u'llah said, "So powerful is the light of unity that it can illuminate the whole earth. May that light go brighter with every passing day." National Spiritual Assembly of the Baha'i of the United States.